All right, everybody. Thanks for joining in. It looks like we got about 17 or 18 people here now. I think the title of this session is more enticing, perhaps, than the content. I'll say that. It's important information, and it's really going to be useful, but this is not about all life after AmeriCorps, which is certainly a very big and ambitious topic. This is really about some of the pieces related to your education award and loans and interest and forbearance, and just making sure you know what some of the next steps are as the program begins to wind up. So I want to give that disclaimer first. It is super important, and we do want you to know all about it, but it might have been, you might have been thinking this is going to be a really big visionary session, but we're going to get down to some tactical information. So without further ado, I'm going to go into it. So what we want to cover here today is forbearance and loans for those of you who have put loans in forbearance and maybe looking at them coming out, what that process is like a little bit and what to look out for and how to take care of your interest. Your education award, how to access it, what you can use it for, and some strategies for using it. Mention briefly about health insurance, and then talk about the AmeriCorps Alumni Network. I'll reserve a bunch of time at the end for questions. I don't anticipate that the content portion as I go through it is going to take me more than about 20 minutes. So we might get out of here early, or if you have a lot of questions, it might walk through, but really going to hopefully give you a chance to understand some of these issues. I did send a handout out just prior to this, and I hope that you all have that. It refers to some of the material here. There's additional information online, certainly at myamericorps.gov, which I'll refer to later. So with that, let's talk about forbearance. So the biggest thing to know, two things really. If you put your loans into forbearance during your AmeriCorps term, you can apply for an interest payment to cover any interest that has accrued. What that means is that your loans have basically been sitting there not coming to you, but they have been accruing interest, and as an AmeriCorps program, that is paid for you. You do need to take some steps to do that. The second thing to know is that they're going to automatically go out of forbearance as you exit you from the system. It'll occur before the end of September, so we want you to be ready for it. So you either set aside some funds, depending on the amount of your loan payments, or you're just prepared to start paying those again. And typically we pay for all of the interest for qualified student loans. And that deferment forbearance period is going to depend on your lender and your past. You want to make sure to contact your lender prior to the end of the service year to learn any kinds of timing for your next payment. We don't know what loans you have. We just are tying into them if you've put them in forbearance. So the way that you go about doing this is through your myamericorps.gov account. Hopefully you all set one up at the beginning of the service year. And this is where you would have put your loans into forbearance at the start of the year. So for those of you listening who didn't do this, I guess you can go ahead and check some email for this period. But those of you who did, you should know exactly what we're talking about. For all of you, we hope that you do have a myamericorps.gov account. I believe you set one up at the beginning, everybody. But if you didn't, please do. And we don't know your passwords. You're going to have to go to them if you've got questions. You will be accessing your education award through the site, so it's important to have a site and an access to use. So if you're trying to pay your interest from your forbearance, as you can see in these instructions, you're going to click on the Create Interest Accrual link at the top of your page, bringing up the page to request the payment. You'll select the appropriate term of service and the type of loan, and hopefully it should be in there already. Identify the holder of the loan and click Submit. And then a record of that request will appear in your account homepage. Now, ideally, you're going to get that, follow that circuit. I would keep an eye on it just to make sure it all goes through, make sure your lender receives it, make sure they credit it to your account. We like to think that some of these automated systems are all going to work out okay, but when it's your money and it's somebody giving you money, I hope that you'll keep an eye on it. Turning to the education award, some general information. It is used for both non-degree and certificate courses. And you'll see throughout these slides that we basically want you to connect with your financial aid office of the institution you want to use it for to get the best information and the best understanding of what exactly you might be able to apply it for. Sometimes different institutions have different rules. They have maybe ways of paying for things that are not accessible to other institutions. So there's not really exactly a standard approach. And sometimes there's better or worse opportunities in different institutions. So it's really good to check in with your financial aid office about your education award. You have 7 years from the period you finish your program to use the award. You can apply to extend it, but you're going to have to give an explanation. You know, you did another term of service is one explanation, or maybe there's some compelling circumstances, but you really want to keep an eye on that. It's non-transferable except to children and grandchildren, and knowing you all, I don't think that's going to be applicable within 7 years. But again, if you do that transfer, it still has an expiration date. That was a feature set up for older people generally who are doing AmeriCorps, but just wanted to highlight it. In order to get support, this applies to both forbearance and to the Ed Award. You can see there's a My AmeriCorps support information, and then also the edaward.org website. Definitely encourage you to go take a look at that and understand exactly what it is. And now let's talk about some strategies, approaches. Oh, no, that's going to be next. First, we're going to talk about the timing of it and accessing it. So the Education Award typically arrives into your account about 6 weeks after you are exited from CivicSpark. It's not a bank account. It's not like you can withdraw it for something else, but there's on myamericorps.gov, it shows up there, and that's how you distribute and target the payments. We have 30 days to exit you from the end date, so you can assume it will be accessible by the mid to end of November, assuming you're exiting mid-September. And we hope, I think that's maybe a little bit of, oh yes, September, October, yeah, right, 2 months. The Ed Award is distributed, as I mentioned, through the myamericorps.gov website. And so again, the reason you want to have that account set up. You can choose from within there the institution for payment or the lender to make a payment to. It's only going to make a payment to an existing federally backed student loan. For those of you who may have private loans, it may not be able to be, I don't believe it is eligible to use that funding to pay off that loan. And hopefully those of you who had federally backed loans and put them into forbearance, those connections will already be in your myamericorps.gov account. And for a university, you can use it for tuition or continuing education, and we'll talk about some of the kinds of things you can do with it in a moment. So once you're in the site, once you know where you want to send it, you would select the institution, the amount, and you could submit payment to be sent. Again, I'm going to encourage you to not just trust the system, but if you are sending tuition to an institution like a university, to make sure with your financial aid office that they received it and they credit it against your account. So as we mentioned before, using Ed Award for loans can only be used for, or can be used for any federally backed student loan. Obviously, if you were able to put it in forbearance, it's going to work against that. You can divide it in to make smaller batch payments or pay multiple loans. Kristen is calling me, which makes me nervous that something's going on. Hello? Oh, drat. Okay, are you guys still on the first slide? Oh. Well, that's a problem. Okay, going back to agenda. Let me see what's going on with the control panel. Oh, now I see. We hear you. Now it's not frozen. Still on the first slide here. Somehow. All right, let's see what's going on. Sorry, guys. I didn't even see that things were getting locked up. Let me see if I can get this one in a different way. So let's try it. At least you heard me if didn't see me. So let's go. I'm going to leave you on the line. I'm going to actually unmute you. As you're going to be my informant here. Okay? Kristen, are you there and are you able to hear me?
Yep, hi.
Great. Okay. So let me know real quick if we go ahead in the slide. So I'm now on the forbearance slide.
Nope, I'm still seeing your, like, the slide deck.
Interesting. Well, this sucks. I'm going to go out of two-screen mode to see if that difference. I have two screens set up and maybe GoToWebinar doesn't like it. Let's try now. Can you see forbearance?
I can see forbearance, but it's just it's not in presentation mode.
Hopefully it'll go there in just a second. Let's see. Still sitting in non-presentation mode?
Yeah.
Wow, this is really a drag. I apologize for that. Love GoToWebinar. Okay. No, we don't want to do that. All right. You know what I'm going to do is I use an internet phone, and maybe that's causing a conflict. So bear with me a second, folks. I'm going to call in from a different line. Hi, can folks hear me now?
Yep.
Great. Now let's see, what can you see on your screen?
I'm still seeing it out of presentation mode.
Still stuck, huh?
Yeah. Even if, I guess we could just go
We
click.
could email the we could email the slides to everybody real quick. Apologize for this, folks. Not sure what's going on. GoToWebinar is a little bit touchy. And this content is mostly text, and I'm stuck, and I can't even get out of presentation mode. Come on. All right. All right. Is it now just showing a blank screen?
I'm seeing your desktop.
Are things moving on it?
Yeah, I see it loading Gmail.
Wow, okay. So it can show you my desktop, but not when I'm in presentation mode. All right. Well, we'll do this a funky way. I'm just going to leave the slides up here in this view, and we'll just go through them that way, not in slideshow mode. I don't know what's going on with slideshow mode. So you can see the first slide right now?
Yep.
All right. Sorry, guys. Really a drag. So let me go back. We talked about forbearance. I've kind of covered all the content here, so I don't know if it's worth re-showing these slides. I will send them out afterwards, and hopefully y'all can get access, and if there's any critical information that you want to see in a written form, you can see it that way. So I believe we were up to using your Ed Award for loans. So as I started to say, you can use the Ed Award for federally backed student loans. You can divide it up and make smaller batch payments. This is a really critical point I want to make here. The Education Award is considered taxable income. So when you spend it, it shows up as income on your taxes. So the more you use, the higher your tax will be for that year. Kristen, why don't you put yourself on mute, and then if you need to tell me anything, you can unmute. So, for example, if you're going to, you can see in this example, if you're making payments of $1,200 over 5 years, you're only going to show up that income as $1,200 a year,
versus $5,600 if you make one payment. Obviously, it's an advantage to you not to have more income in a given year. Now, that has a dual side to it, particularly this year, 2015, your income's likely very low given your AmeriCorps status. So the bump of making a single payment may have less of an income because your overall income is so low than if you made even half that amount next year or the year after that. You'll have to decide about that, but just be very aware of it as an impact on your taxes. Additionally, it can't just be sort of doled out monthly. You really have to make the payments yourself and go in each month if you want to take that approach. So it's probably easier for you to make single annual payments if that's what you want to do, or one lump sum payment if that's, again, what you want to do based on your strategy. Come on. So using your Ed Award for school, it's going to be accepted at any accredited school. It doesn't have to be tied to your degree. You can use it for electives like art or language classes. If you go to nationalserve.gov, you can see the kind of schools that might match or give scholarship for alumni. Again, a really important point when you're thinking about the long-term application of these fundings. It might be tempting to pay off your loan right now because that's what you've got in front of you. But if you anticipate going to grad school in the future, you might be able to actually increase the value of that award should you happen to choose to go to a school that will match your award or given a scholarship based on award. I've heard there are some schools that will match them 2 times, meaning you get twice the value. And so that could be really beneficial. And so, again, the desire to pay off your loan, you want to be strategic about choosing that versus tuition. If you're absolutely sure you're not going to go to school but you have loans, I would suggest using it for that. And as I mentioned at the top, work with your financial aid to make sure you get the best aid package with awareness of your Ed Award as a factor. We suggest keeping the money in your account until you're ready to use it. Having the money sitting in your financial aid office affects potentially your offer of aid. So don't transfer it until you need it. You have 7 years, and if you're going to grad school in the next year or 2, it's a great time to sort of play that out over time. Again, and also if you chose not to use it by the time you got done with grad school in 4 or 5 years, you would still have a couple years to use it for loans that might have accrued. You can, in some cases, use your Ed Award for things other than admissions, things that are cost of attendance related, essential gear, general supplies. It's different on each campus. This is where, again, you're going to want to talk to your financial aid department of the institutions you're going to or that you're thinking of going to in order to understand your options and get the best value out of this Ed Award. We want to see you sort of use it in the most flexible way possible that meets your needs and obviously gives you the greatest value. Taxes, a very fun topic. Awards is going to be taxed at the interest rate of the year in which it is used. So I think this year it's about 4%, and maybe total you're going to pay about $500 on your award. And so spreading out that award use is going to spread out the tax payment burden. Your interest repayment, going back to the loan section of this presentation, is also taxed. So even though they've paid your interest, that shows up as income, the amount they've paid. So if they've paid $3,000, that's going to show up as income, and at whatever taxable rate you're going to be taxed upon that. Let's say it's 10% for a simple case. You're going to get a $300 additional tax burden for that interest payment. So you want to be, again, factoring that into what you're doing and when you're spending those funds and when you're asking for that interest payment. In the case that you have problems paying taxes as an AmeriCorps member, you can appeal to the Taxpayer Relief Act of 1997. You're going to have to talk to the IRS or look through their guidelines or work with a tax preparer if you have that access to figure out your options. Healthcare. When you leave the program, you're not eligible for COBRA, if you're familiar with that term, which is a way of continuing your health care, but you can continue coverage through the end of October at your own expense. So if you're interested, please let us know, and I can provide you an application to fill out and submit to the provider of our healthcare program. And finally, just wanted to touch on AmeriCorps alumni. As alumni, it's a great resource. I encourage you to look at AmeriCorpsAlum.org. They can provide assistance with networking, job searching, grad school fairs, opportunities to be engaged in AmeriCorps service beyond just being an AmeriCorps member, and connecting with others in your region. There's other links in there for discounted insurance, help completing taxes. So a really great asset, and definitely a community that we hope you feel like you're part of for the rest of your life. So that's the last slide I have, and barring all the crazy technology issues, I'd love to take questions. And if anybody has any questions, I can unmute them. You can either raise your hand using that cute function where you raise hand on the dashboard, or type it into the question section, and hopefully I will see it this time. Any questions that we can answer about any of these things? I don't see any raised hands. I don't see any typed questions. Oh, maybe there's one. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Barb DeGraff. How do you find out if your school is Title IV? I believe you can look on that site, and I'll go back to it right now if I can move this out of there. The nationalservice.org site. Where is it? Check out nationalserv.gov to see which schools might match. I think they'll also list the schools. Also, Title IV means accredited, and so if you're going to an accredited university, pretty much all the mainstream ones, and you can always ask your financial aid department. Melanie has a question, and I will unmute you, Melanie. Hold on a second. Go ahead, Melanie.
Hi, I just asked it, but anyways, I was just wondering that if we use our Ed Award for schooling, like taking a class at a university extension school or something like that, could we also use the remaining money to match for scholarships at Title IV schools?
Yeah, so I think your question is really, can you split up your award across multiple institutions and multiple purposes? Absolutely. So you could pay a portion of your loan and then use some for tuition, or you could use some for tuition in one school and then some for tuition in another school. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that makes sense. That's exactly what I wanted.
And so again, it's a strategy. You know, you got this $5,600. It's maybe easiest to think about it as just knocking it out. It's also useful to think about a little bit of a long-term application, especially when it comes to matching funds. And I'd be looking at any school, if you're thinking about grad school, weighing that in. Because if you can turn $5,600 into $11,000, that's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is there a specific time frame for submitting the interest accrual payment request? That is a good question that I don't have the answer to. We could look it up for you, or it might be on myAmeriCorps.gov. I was assuming that there would be a time frame, since the interest accrual, you're going to come out of forbearance, and then you're going to you might get dinged for that interest pretty quickly, and so you need to trigger that so you don't have to pay it. But I'm not 100% sure because I've never done it myself. But we'll look up the answer, or if you find out the answer, please let us know. Hannah, let's unmute you. Hannah Nielsen has a question.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
Hello. Oh, good. I was wondering if we can use Education Award on non-traditional schooling programs like NOLS or a permaculture design certificate course.
There's a lot of background noise, so I'm going to go back and mute you again. I think that if everybody could I don't know if everybody heard that, but the question was, can you use the Education Award for non-traditional programs like Knowles? I think with the example, that's going to depend, and that's a place where you want to find out, you want to look that up. I can't say specifically about Knowles, but I have heard of some alternative programs accepting the Ed Award or being allowed to use the Ed Award. And so that's a conversation to have with Knowles or another provider, and also to look at myamericorps.gov and see, or nationalservice.gov to see if those kind of programs will accept the Ed Award. Kristen Race has a question. Kristen, go ahead. Or maybe not. You should be unmuted on my end, Kristen, if you wanted to say something. Oh, you can't unmute yourself. I don't know why. I unmuted you, but go ahead and type it in, and I'll see if I can answer it. Any other questions while she's writing down the question she wants to ask? Michaela, let's see if I can unmute you. Michaela, are you there?
Hi. I actually didn't have a question. I just had, in regards to the last question that was asked, I kind of already had done some research on that, and I found a really good link explaining like some alternative uses for the Education Award, and also like figuring out how, if you can use it for alternative uses. So I was just going to tell you that I could email you that, and so that you could send it out as well.
Absolutely. And also, if you wouldn't mind just pasting it into the chat window or the question window, everybody will see it.
Sure. I'll do that.
Hopefully that chat function is working now, but I don't know.
Okay.
Emily has written in a question. Emily says, when you want to use your Education Award for things like course materials, who is it that makes that final decision and gives you the final approval? I believe it is the financial aid office of the school you want to use it in, because they have to trigger some sort of connection between your account in AmeriCorps and their account. So they're going to be the ones who allow that to happen. You're welcome. Other questions? Just a comment that Brandeis Heller School for Social Policy and Management had a hefty scholarship for AmeriCorps alumni. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Stephen. Do you have a sense of how big is hefty? I mean, I would love to give people a sense of what they could be looking at if they want to leverage their AmeriCorps Ed Award. We can't see what other people are saying in this chat box. Well, it's a good thing I'm reading them out loud then. I did not see a link come through yet. Barb asked if the link was sent through for the alternative usages. Melanie might be sending that out to the Civic Spark listserv, or she might type it in here later. Oh, there we go. Heller School is pleased to offer scholarships of at least 40% at $17,000 per year to AmeriCorps alumni admitted to the COEX, IHPM, and SID programs. Wow. So that's not even your Ed Award. That's just your AmeriCorps alumni status, giving you, for a 2-year program, $30,000, $35,000. That's really impressive. So definitely worth thinking about. And that one, given that that's not actually your award, you could use your award for other things and still be able to access this. So that's a really good distinction. Some of these benefits are for your alumni status. Some are actually leveraging your award. Thanks a lot for looking that up, Stephen. Other questions or comments? Definitely a good idea to share some of this on the Civic Spark listserv for those folks who didn't make the call today. We did record it, so I'll be saving that out. It's a bit of a mess to listen to given all the technical challenges, but hopefully be useful. And if Melanie, if you find that link and get a chance to send it out, I think lots of folks would be interested in that. Any other comments or questions? Well, if that's it, I want to thank you guys very much for taking the time. Maybe there's something that's come in. Oh, there we go. It is copied in there. You guys apparently can't see that, but I'm going to paste it here and hopefully it shows up. Give me a second. Copy. Well, I'll get it out. I don't know why this is so glitchy. No. There we go. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see that now. SCC, welcome to Durango, Weebly.com/alternative ways to use your edaward.html. A nice, easy email web link to follow. Thanks a lot, Michaela. So again, if no other questions, I want to thank you guys for taking time today, and please let us know if you have questions or if you find interesting or valuable ways to use your EdAward, or if there's challenges. I'll encourage you again, if you have not already set up a myamericorps.gov account, please do so you're ready to go and take a poke around there, and visit the AmeriCorpsAlum.org so that you can get signed up as well there and get connected to that network. And I hope you all have a really great day, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon.